Hey everyone, in this video I'll show you exactly how to download, install, and set up or configure SSMS so you can start working with your SQL Server instance right away. SSMS is short for SQL Server Management Studio. In my last video, I walked you through how to install SQL Server, but having SQL Server installed is just the first step. To interact with it, manage databases, write queries, or perform any administrative task, you need a powerful tool like SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio. To begin the download, I'm going to bring up my Edge, or if you prefer Google, Google Chrome, that's fine too. And I'm going to type in download SSMS. So this will take us to the official page to download SQL Server Management Studio. It's a Microsoft tool. I'll click on that. And right here, you can read about SSMS. But to download, I'm just going to scroll down to download SSMS. This is the latest version of SSMS as at today. And I will click on these to get started. If you need to download older versions, you can also do that too. It gives you, if you scroll down, you'll be able to see places where you can do that. Now it's downloading. We can see that in the top right-hand corner. My download is done. I'm going to open up this file. And we can see the path where it's going to install this tool. Now, I do not change this. If you want to change the path where the installation would happen, you can do that. I've not had a reason to do that, so I'll go ahead and click install. It will take just a few minutes to install. It doesn't take that long. Setup is complete. I'll go ahead and close this. It is not requiring me to do a restart right now. Sometimes it may require you to restart. I'll close this and I'll go search for that. In the search bar, I'm going to type in SSMS and you should have SQL Server Management Studio pull up. I usually like to just pin this to my start and I also pin to my taskbar since I use this all the time. And I'll click on this to open it up. And here you have SQL Server Management Studio. So it has defaulted to the instance that I have on this server. I only have one instance here, but if you're trying to log on to a different instance, of course, you can browse and look for the SQL Server instance you're trying to connect to. We're connecting to a database engine. I'm using Windows Alt. As far as this part is concerned, this connection security, I'm using optional because I don't have any security sets for this lab. There's no certificates. And so I'm just going to go with optional because if I use mandatory, I will not be able to connect. I'm going to have an error message. So I will go ahead and use optional. But if in environments where securities have been set, and you have to log on using encryption mandatory, you want to make sure you fix that issue before you connect to the SQL Server instance. So let's go ahead and connect and configure our SQL Server. Now we're connected to SSMS. So we have this open. And on the right-hand side here, whenever I install SSMS, new version, or in a different system, I like to configure it a certain way. And I'll show us a few things we can do. For me, I just feel like this environment, these letters are just too small. I like to increase the fonts. So that's one. Another thing is about having line numbers. You can see that when I start to type right here, there's no line number um, in what I'm typing. So I can go ahead and type continuously with no line numbers. I usually like to have line numbers um, when I have these set up. And a third thing here would be I like to use a feature called word wrap so that when I'm typing my queries or when I have pull up queries, it does not just span across and keep going um, to the right on end. For instance, I'm just going to hold down a key on my keyboard. Let me hold down the H key, and you would see this would just continue to go towards the right and will not go down unless I press the enter key, right? And before I continue to type again. But for me to see what I have on the farthest right hand side, I have to scroll to see that. But you can actually enable word wrap so that when it gets to the edge of this screen, it automatically goes to the next line and starts writing from there so you don't have to deal with a situation like this. So let's clear this out. First, I'm going to deal with the environment. I'll go to tools, options, and I'm going to fonts and colors. And for the text editor, this white background behind would be the text editor. I can decide to choose the font that I want and choose how big I want it to be. I usually go for 13 or 14. And if I do that, you would see that this becomes bigger when I type, right? So that's how we have that done and that's set. And I don't have to do any restart for this, as in restarting SSMS. I can also go back and I want to change this area. I don't like how small they are. I usually like the environments to be bigger. I'll click on this drop down right here where it says show settings for, and I'm looking for the environment. It's usually small and it's set to automatic. I like to pick Arial, and I like to set this usually at 13. If it's too big, I would reduce it. You can see how big this is now, and this is easier for me to see, and I prefer this. I also want to go back into line numbers so that my queries, when I type, I would have line numbers. I'll go down to text editor right here and all languages, general, I would choose line numbers. I would also choose word wrap. I can do this right here, just as I was explaining earlier, and click OK. So now you see automatically I have line numbers. And if I decide to do the same thing I did earlier, just hold down one key on my keyboard and see when this is going to turn over. You can see it moves over to the next line when it gets to the edge instead of just continuously writing towards the right. It goes, it wraps around to the next line, and you can see that right here to show on the farthest right hand corner. And we're able to see that here, this icon right here, that's showing that word wrap, so that it wraps around. So the next thing we would show, I could go ahead and um, run a query, right? Let's say select out version and execute these so we can see how here it's kind of tiny when it shows up in the result grid. We can also make these bigger. We can also make the message that shows bigger. This is not so tiny, but sometimes it can be very tiny. But these are things that you can customize. We can go back to tools, go to options. Before I do that, yes, let's go to options and go to fonts and colors under environment. Let's do this. And we want to choose um, the setting that we need to change. So I want to do this for the result grid. And I want to increase that to, let's say, 14 and click OK. So it's telling me here that that change will not happen until I restart. In other words, I'll have to restart not the server, but close this SSMS and reopen it. I'm going to say OK. Before I do that, I want to take a screenshot of this so we can see the difference in size before I close and reopen SSMS. So let's take a screenshot quickly. I'll drag here so we can see how big this was and keep it aside. I'm going to close and reopen SQL Server Management Studio. I don't want to save the query. I'm going to log back in. I'm back to this, and I'm going to run that same query again. Select an app version, execute. We can see how big it is this time. If I bring up the picture that we took earlier and put them side by side, we can see the difference. We can increase that our result, what shows up in our result grid like this. But if I go over to the messages, we still have this as a little bit small. I can also go back to options, fonts and colors. I did this earlier on for the grid results, and I want to do this for test results. I can also change these to 14 and click OK. I can do it for the tests, and it tells me the same thing would happen. I have to go out of SQL Server Management Studio and come back in. So I'm pulling up SQL Server Management Studio again, and I will connect. And we can try that query again. Select add version, execute. And this time, if I go to the test, we can see how big this is now compared to what it was before. So there are a lot of things that we can change just to suit how we want SSMS or SQL Server Management Studio to look for us. I don't want to make this video too long, but we can go to tools, just like I showed us, go to options and take a look at the different things that would happen when you change settings under here for your environment. You don't want to do too much. You just want to do what you need as far as changing the colors, changing the fonts, having line numbers, having the word wrap, and making the environment bigger. It's not just installing SSMS. You can configure it to work for you the way you want it to be. I hope this video helps. If this was helpful to you, please like and subscribe for more videos like this. See you in the next video.